Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of September 2nd, 2013. Welcome to the site to you new members, and welcome back to the old members. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in the video, just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it. So please send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There's no such thing as a stupid question, and it is the best way to get the most out of the site. I am announcing something pretty awesome. It's one of a kind, and it's first of its kind in animation online. So stay tuned. It's probably going to be announced within the next week or so. And we're going to be beginning it in October. You're definitely going to want to tell all your friends about this new initiative that we're kicking off here at KennyRoy.com. It is the, I think, I've thought a lot about it. I think it is probably the most beneficial animation training paradigm that exists out there. I wish there was something exactly like this, and we tried to do something like this a long time ago when I was learning animation, but not quite like this. So just stay tuned for that. You're going to be amazed. I do believe. It is the fall now. We are officially, well, it's almost Labor Day, but we are in the fall, and man, the year just flies by, doesn't it? So I wanted to just take a second and remind you how appreciative I am of you being here on this site. As long as you guys keep coming back, I'll keep making these videos. I love making them. I hope you enjoy them. I hope they give you a lot of information and help you in your career. Let's just keep rocking on, I guess. Finish out the year strong. And happy fall, I guess, or autumn, depending on where you're from, or if you use that word. Well, we've got a great question here this week. Why don't you take a look? Very good question. Ever since I started harping on this new concept, I'm still kind of figuring it out. I'm still sort of finding my footing about animating with tempo. I've gotten some questions about animating with tempo, and it's been, I've received at least 2 emails that from animators that have said that animating with tempo is finally like the way that they've been able to finally understand workflow. And they've made a huge breakthrough, and they're very, very, very excited about more to come with animating with tempo. And there is going to be more to come with animating with tempo. I'm trying to just figure out. I'm still, like I said, I'm still trying to find my footing with the whole concept of animating with tempo. And I sort of compare it, not that it is as in depth a foundation as drawing with force, but it sort of is like drawing with force. Mike Matizzi, his book Drawing with Force, Dynamic Life Drawing for Animators. It's just a way that he basically started working and continued to work, and after a while he just realized that he was saying the same thing over and over. And it made a lot of sense to sort of like really hone in on what that exact concept is, and then just teach that concept instead. I'm sort of almost feeling that tempo is my force, to sort of compare it to Mike's experience with that. Anyway, where I'm going with this is that I haven't really thought about the subtle shots up until this question was asked. And actually it was asked about a week apart by 2 different people, like word for word, about animating with tempo with a subtle shot. And I don't think you use tempo with a subtle shot, but that might be something that I do in order to explore tempo. I might animate a subtle shot trying to animate with tempo, and then see if I can sort of extrapolate the goodies for you guys, so that you can sort of like learn from my experiment there. But really what tempo deals with is making the timing decisions that are going to most clearly exhibit or distinguish your animation from either Maya's default interpolation another animator's choice or bad animation. So that's fundamentally at the core of animating with tempo. It is an overall concern with making those timing decisions that are going to distinguish it. So when you're talking about a subtle shot, the difference between a subtle shot, let's say you have a character, no words, no dialogue, right? And they're just thinking about something, and then they come to a realization, and then they look at somebody just off screen, right? Just off screen, and there's sort of like a connection there, sort of like a knowing, an understanding with them. In this subtle shot, the timing choices that you would be able to make, sort of like the wiggle room that you have on a shot like this, is not the kind of timing choices that can be done, like for instance, with a helper object. First of all, that can let you access those timing choices, or even if you don't need a helper object, some rigs, like, you know, the flour sack, I used a helper object, but really, if I wanted to, probably could have just taken that flour sack rig, the master controller, or the World IK movers, just made a quick select set out of all of them, selected them, and moved them together instead of a sphere. Probably. I mean, a bipedal character with, like, you know, long arms and legs and kind of like a complex silhouette, it's a little bit better to use a helper object, but for something as simple as the flour sack, I could have done that demonstration of animating with tempo with the rig itself. But especially if you're talking about like a head, let's say it's a close-up shot. I don't see how having a helper object let you get quicker to and access those timing choices long before the pose choices in the face would actually get you anywhere on a subtle shot. The only thing that I could say is that a little bit of the demonstration that I do in How to Cheat in Maya, the How to Cheat in Maya series about secondary action, could be applicable. In that book, what I say is that secondary action is kind of like the window into subtlety. It's kind of like our way that we access subtext. And I do like that analogy. When we take a performance like the one I just described, where you have a character and he's sitting here and he's thinking over something, and then all of a sudden comes to a realization, and then looks at that person off screen, and then kind of like they have a connection and an understanding. The only kind of major timing choices that you have are the length of time that it takes to go from like that concerned kind of like thinking face to the realization face, right? And how do you do that with a helper object or without going actually into the facial controls, into those, you know, minute details and kind of starting to access that? Sure, you have the head turn. Okay, the head turn is gross body movement. It's a large controller that you can play with the timing of, but that would be part of your original workflow anyway, wouldn't it? I mean, hopefully you're following the rest of my workflow tips on this site, and you're not just picking and choosing. The other one that would apply here is obviously getting to and experimenting with those major timing choices whenever you get to them. Animating with tempo, remember, animating with tempo is trying to get to those timing choices before anything, as fast as you possibly can. And if it means using just like a helper object instead of your rig, then yeah, do that, because the timing choices is what's going to distinguish your animation. That's what tempo deals with. On a subtle shot, if you can't do that, then you should still be, once you get there, once you have that, you know, that facial pose change blocked in from the concern to the realization, and then you get to that look, then hopefully the way you're doing it is you're blocking it in, and then you're saying, okay, let's try a little bit more arc. Okay, that looks stupid. Let's try over. Over looks worse. Let me try just a little bit of arc. Okay, that looks the best. Now let's make it half the time, right? Twice as fast. Let's make it twice as slow. Let's make it 3 times as slow. Oh, now that looks like he's like afraid of what he's going to see. Let's try the faster one again. Yeah, that looks the best because he knows where the character is and knows and is not afraid to make eye contact and wants to connect with that person. So yeah, let me try like even quicker. Let me try even quicker. Let me try even quicker. All right, that was too quick. Let me come back. So that's what you're doing. Hopefully, that's your workflow as you're blocking that in, and you're really honing in on those acting choices. And like you just heard me going through that thought process, it deals with a lot of that kind of just like saying over and over what is supposed to be happening and then making a change, and not like changing it and trying to perfect it as you're doing it, but making a change and then watching it. That's the other piece of workflow advice that I really hope that everybody is taking seriously to heart. Okay? Making a change and watching it and then judging it. Okay? Watch your change. We have such an unbelievable, I mean, like the first animators at Disney, they'd have to actually shoot. I mean, besides like flipping their animation, I mean, that's pretty good. But to watch an entire scene, you'd have to shoot it, and then you'd have to watch it back on film, right? It would take a week to get that back, and then watch it and see if something's working or something needs to be fixed, okay? So can you imagine how amazing they would think that our technology is? And some of these guys are still around, but I'm just saying that instant feedback where you can actually just be an audience member and switch back and forth from animator to audience to animator to audience is just unbelievable, and you have to be taking advantage of that. So I don't mean to take up this entire email to laud the benefits of the rest of my workflow tips, but to get back to the question, I think that animating with tempo deals a lot more with the kinds of actions that are prevalent in all of our work. There's very, very few actually subtle shots, and you're not going to be doing subtle shots unless it's like, for episodic TV that is like some pretty serious high-end stuff, like Kung Fu Panda or Penguins of Madagascar kind of stuff, not Dora the Explorer or Dinosaur Train, you know what I mean? Or feature animation. I don't need to bring this up because I don't want to discourage anybody. That's never my aim here at all. But the simple fact is that we have to realize how much animation is done outside of like Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks, those kinds of places. For the majority of us, I've never worked at Disney or Pixar, okay? For the majority of us, we're going to be getting our bread and butter from commercials, television episodic, TV VFX, did I say commercials? And games. The majority of us are going to be working in those sectors, okay? You got to train for, anyone who's played sports knows you got to train for the game, right? You don't train to, you don't just scrimmage, you have to drill your individual skills. Right? You don't just train for you don't just play the game and not practice dribbling or shooting the ball or whatever, right? So you have to actually put time into getting these skills that are going to help you when you're in a pinch. So I'm not saying don't do subtle shots at all. I'm just saying that animating with tempo is probably the best simplest update I've had to my workflow for the actual kind of work that 99% of us are going to be doing. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And even if you have like a subtle scene, like that subtle shot in the middle of the scene where you can't use tempo, that's fine, because you're probably in good shape anyway if you're following all the workflow tips and you have a strong workflow that you're building on every single time you make a shot. So I'm saying like even like the 11-second club, if you feel you're ready, if you've done enough little animation tests to feel that you're ready to take on a gigantic one, then one of those shots might be really, really subtle, close up on the face, and you can't use tempo. But for the most part, you should be practicing full body animation, animating just tip to tail, and wide enough so you can see all the performance happening using body language and using everything at your disposal. Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say, I might be justifying this a little bit. I might be defending tempo a little bit, but tempo, simply put, probably doesn't apply to those very close-up, super subtle shots, but it applies to. So far, I haven't figured out anything that it doesn't apply to. So great question. Thank you for sending it in. I love questions. I've had to, because my wife gave birth early for our first son. She's pregnant, and we don't know if she's going to be like a month early or right on time this time. And she's due September 26th, so I've had to pre-record a few more video mails. So I still need your questions though. Doesn't mean I don't need questions. Please send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I love getting them, and I announced last month that every single question you send in, I'll give you a free day on the site. Right, so I'll extend your subscription by 1 day. So send in 15 questions, and you'll get over 2 weeks free. How great does that sound? Do we have a deal? Good. Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing more people do some shots animating with tempo. I think it's a really a big thing. I think it's on the verge of a breakthrough in animation. So use it, try it out, tell me how you do, and good luck with your animation. As always, rock on.